Take two. Hello again and welcome back to the 5th episode of TPS Expeditions. My name is Ryan Noche and I'll be your host for today's episode, all things life and leadership. I hope everyone has an enjoyable weekend of sun and rest because we have a lot more knowledge to drop. Now that you've hopefully tuned in at least once to partake in our content, please feel free to always use the chat box below, as well as a link that can be found via the TPS senior page to ask any and all questions / look back at previous episodes. Previous episodes showcased by Brandon Oldham from GKFF, Calvin McKinney from TCC, Sable Vasquez from OSUIT, and most recently, Quentin Liggins from TPS. Incredible. Thank you on behalf of TPS and all those getting something beneficial out of these conversations now and into the future. If you are watching and are in need of any resources that you have yet to answer, or we have yet to answer, feel free to navigate to our newest post-secondary readiness webpage that is linked on the senior page to learn more about colleges, careers, and tech schools, through tours, links, and more that is now live and chock full of amazing items to explore. With that being said, we've learned a lot and there's lots more to go over even still. So I hope today we can continue our journey through the new education scene we see ourselves in during these unprecedented times. However, today we will also take a look beyond and see what we should be doing personally, no matter if we are amidst a pandemic or not. For today's episode, we have Jake Lerner, a founder of Tulsa Changemakers, a leadership initiative within Tulsa County. He'll be helping us better understand leadership, how to step up, and going full circle some of the commentary over the last month. It was my fault last round, so we'll see if he can join us again on his phone with Instagram Live app. And without further ado, I'm going to try to invite him on, see if he's with us, and we'll go from there. Please be patient, and we'll see if we can get him on. Here we go. Just waiting for him for 1 second. We'll see if he gets on momentarily. All right. Hey, Jake, how you doing?
Hey, that's my outside of my house. Now I gotta figure out how to turn this camera around.
I think it's on the bottom top left. There it
Hello.
is. How's it going, Jake? That's my fault, man. I apologize. He was on his laptop, not his phone for Instagram Live. So my apologies and shout out to you.
I'm an old man. I didn't even have that on.
No worries, no worries.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thanks for jumping back on. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. Beautiful weather outside. I'm gonna see if I could work from out there today, and it's all good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate it. Just a little hiccup, but doing fine now. Doing fine now. I introduced you a little bit, Jake. Do you mind just saying your name again and just a little bit about yourself to kind of give us a context moving forward?
Yes. My name is Jake Lerner. I moved to Tulsa with Teach for America. Originally from Philadelphia. Went to the University of Pennsylvania. Taught for a few years, and now I am the program director and co-founder of a program called Tulsa Changemakers, which does after-school programming at 17 elementary, middle, and high schools at TPS, union, and affiliated charter schools. We also support with the Tulsa Public Schools Superintendent Student Cabinet, and then also do some training and consulting around the city for nonprofits that are interested in expanding youth voice and youth participatory action. So we're all about helping young people and people in general make positive impact in their community.
That's awesome, man. You're in a little bit of every bucket. That's fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us. And I know that little technical mishaps, we've had it every week, so I'm glad we can continue the situation going. So for the next 15 or 20, just for you, Jake, and those listening, we're just going to have a brief conversation about some of the conversations we had over the past month and some of the questions we discussed yesterday. So forefront of my mind, we jumped off our call yesterday, and I know I started talking to Quentin Liggins last week about values. And I know you're in a leadership role and like you're kind of teaching kids how to become leaders. I'm curious, so can you speak to values like in the lens of leadership? Like what does that look like? Would you consider leadership to be a value itself? Like what do you think in your mind, in your opinion, what that looks like?
I think values are integral to leadership. So there's an activity that we do, not always as part of the after school program, but there's another activity that we do in some of our trainings where we ask young people to identify core values that they have. And
Sure.
For me, the most interesting part of that, it's not super hard to go on a list and choose any value that you like, but what's really hard is when values come in competition for each other, with each other. So, do you value truth or honesty? And most of the time, those can be the same thing, but there might be times in your life where they come into conflict and you need to make a difficult decision. The coronavirus has present very significant leadership challenges and significant conflicts of values. You know, it's public safety, the economy, being sensible but not being super risk averse maybe, or being ultra careful, or all of those things battle against each other. So we faced that at Tulsa Changemakers. We had to make the very difficult decision to cancel our pitch night, which is our event where we invite hundreds of community members, families, and students together to hear the amazing work the students do. It's my favorite part. We do it, well, now that we're bigger, we do it twice a semester. So we do 4 pitch nights a year, and we had to cancel both of our spring ones. And that was the value. We have a ton of value in pitch night. We want to spotlight the amazing work that young people are doing. We think that public speaking opportunities at a young age can help to inform leadership capacity well beyond. So those are all things we wanted to preserve, but at the same time, we had a responsibility to our community to make sure that we were making a safe and responsible decision. And ultimately, those values won out. Similar to GT Bynum is facing those difficult decisions also. You know, what, as the executive of the city, what is he suggesting? What are things that he has flexibility on? What are things that he doesn't? What's the relationship between Tulsa and the state of Oklahoma and the surrounding counties? So I thought it was great when you told me that last week you talked about values in the context of college and career readiness, because depending on the careers we enter, we're going to be faced with a lot of conflicts of value. And I think it's important during times like this where you can be a little more introspective, but really at all times to reflect on what your values are. And it doesn't mean that you can never change. It doesn't mean that the specific thing you thought when you were 10 years old needs to be the thing that you think for the rest of your life. But I think it's important to consistently reflect so you're not swaying in the wind as circumstances change. And there's some consistency there, because ultimately you're going to be the person that you're going to need to answer to. And you don't want to look back and feel like you've lost sight of your values with the decision.
Yeah, and it grounds you, right? It's a very specific situation. You kind of have to weigh and balance in regards to your everyday situation, right? You have Mayor Bynum, who's a very big figure and executive individual within our city, but again, like, you have the governors, you have legislature, you have Senate, all these people, but then it goes down even farther. It's just like, well, yourself, right? You kind of have to weigh those imperfect possibilities within your mind. It's like, should I do this or should I do this? And like, what are the things that are kind of driving forces? So that's tough. Yeah. Choosing between 2 imperfect possibilities almost, which is not fun, as we all know. So good luck to everyone out there, right? choose the best thing you can do, but it might not always be the best for everyone, and kind of work forward with that. Yeah, that's fascinating, just like looking through that and just introspectively seeing like what we've decided over the last month, the last year, the last 10 to kind of guide us moving forward even. So interesting. So can we all be like, so you were talking about the leaders and Tulsa Changemakers, like, can we all be leaders during this specific time? Or is leadership a specific thing you have to like just do this? Or can you do just like little things? Is it always a big thing? Like, how do you become a leader in today's time or just whenever? Is there like a specific checklist you have to do, or just like, okay, I'm a leader today?
We are leaders no matter if we like it or not. In the small actions that we do every day, people will be taking their cues from us. We're contributing to the energy of any situation that we're in. So I think it's important to be mindful that really every action is a leadership action. There's a talk that we sometimes use in our programming by Drew Dudley. He was a speaker out of TEDx Toronto, and he was talking about something called lollipop moments. He has a story about him being a goofy, I believe it was senior in college. He was passing out lollipops for a fundraiser and telling jokes and getting people laughing, something small like making someone laugh. Eventually, he had a student come to him 4 years later that was now a freshman at the time, a senior when they were speaking. He had gotten a job at the university, he was still there. And she told him that laugh that I had in line registering for classes was the difference between me dropping out of college and staying in college. And we don't realize those impacts that we have on people always in the moment. There's people in our lives that I'm sure we can think about that made big impacts on us. And when I saw that, I reflected on, well, have I told those people? So we actually just posted that lollipop video content on TulsaChangemakers.org, and we tagged it with a challenge. The challenge is call 3 people and let them know during this time while you're at home, and let them know the impact that they've had on you. But beyond beyond those kind of small incremental things, there's also a lot of big things happening in the world of change making right now, particularly around COVID-19. So we have some interesting, I mean, the common example, and we've talked to every age of change maker, they say number one thing to do, you have a responsibility to your community, make sure you're committing to social distancing. You know, we all want a haircut. We all want to see our friends again and be in those big groups that we like to be in. But it's important to maintain that's a personal leadership challenge, and understanding the seriousness of that. There's also some really extraordinary things happening. There is a shortage of things like face masks and protective gear for medical professionals and everyday citizens. And there's organizations that have committed to making more, and they're looking for volunteers. So that's just kind of an interesting opportunity. But then there's also things that are happening online, spreading positive energy, keeping people engaged. Also looking out for your loved ones. This is a time of a lot of change. And we spoke with a mental health counselor at Youth Services of Tulsa at one of our virtual calls with a few of the change makers. And what she was mentioning was that with change can come unique mental health challenges, and understanding that for yourself and being empathic and taking care of yourself, and then also looking to your loved ones and making sure that you're checking in regularly and giving them the love and attention that they need.
So there's lots of things, is what you're saying. So very small things. I always like to look at it in the lens of the fact, right? No matter if we're 10, 15, 18, 25, 85, it's right, even giving that little thing like that lollipop or opening a door or like saying hello, like, right? We have lots of people in Tulsa and beyond that are just like lonely during this time even, and going outside is this monumental thing. And if we're socially distant and just giving them like the time of day and just having a very brief word, a shout out, maybe a compliment, that is being a leader. You're leading by example and doing something that's positive during this time now and into the future, no matter what. And just, I don't know, I think it makes you feel good personally, and then it probably makes the other person feel good as well. So yeah, the gauntlet's dropped. I feel like everyone has to go out and like at least say 3 nice things to someone so we can kind of rally behind Tulsa and make it a better place no matter what. That's awesome. The very concrete examples. I love when we can actually physically take one and kind of run off with it and physically do it. So thank you for those options going forward. So what you're saying is like we can enact change no matter what, right, Jake? Like small, big, large. It's just like we can do it. We just have to go out there and physically do it and put our one foot in front of the other, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have amazing resources for ideas. We can look at organizations that are like-minded. I don't think that there's really any excuse to not act on your values. If there's something that you find meaningful and important, push yourself to find those answers and get that done. I'm reading, currently I'm part of a book club. I'm trying to keep myself busy and productive, and we're reading I Have the Light of Freedom and it's talking about some civil rights leaders, and one of the terms that Ella Baker uses is spade work, doing the work. And I think that we can all have, and so I think that if we reflect on our values, I think we can all identify places where we can just do a little bit more. And ultimately, an investment in change making, an investment in making your world a better place, comes back to you times 10. And that's what I love about it so much. It's not a resource that runs out. It's like a fire. You can share your fire and still have it for yourself. And like I think getting young people excited about that, but really everybody in our community excited about doing what's necessary. And some of it is the unglamorous stuff, like staying at home when that's the most important thing for our vulnerable populations. It could be as simple as that.
Okay. So it's like karma piece, right? Staying at home, it doesn't seem big or glamorous, as you said, but it's a necessity in today's time, and that moves forward. And it changes with the day or the month, but it's always those little things that can kind of prop people up and move forward as well. So it kind of leads me to the next question. So like that was kind of framed in regards to the coronavirus, but not. Is there different things, like how can we help, like, and better ourselves? You said lollipop moments. I mean, look, we can do those things now. Can we also do those things a month from now, a year from now? Like, does it change at all, or are those things still pretty prevalent and necessary just as a nation, as a city, or do they change depending upon how the times change?
It's a good question. I think that it's important to keep perspective that this moment is unprecedented, and there are unique challenges that come up with it. But being called on to be a leader is something that's going to be happening all of our lives when the pandemic is behind us, and certainly when it was before us. Things like taking your daily choices seriously, I think in the context of college and career, making career choices that are aligned to your values and not feeling cognitively dissonant, not feeling like you're doing things that you don't believe in. And then the choices you make in college. I think one thing I was shocked by when I went to college from high school, the amount of freedom there is. And if you don't have a firm grounding in your values and who you are as a purpose, it's easy enough to get swept away. So I think surrounding yourself with good people is something that's always a necessity during times of hardship and during times of transition and stability. Surrounding yourself with good people, and making sure you're doing that internal work on your values and your decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially just like right now, right? I feel like the biggest thing people overlook, no matter who you are, is that there's problems currently happening, right, outside of coronavirus, COVID-19, and that kind of gets lost on people, right? I know I have personal friends that have gone through sickness, and I'm sure tons of our viewers and students are going through hard times themselves, regardless of this pandemic, and it's keeping that in the back of mind. It's like, right, everyday occurrences are still going to happen no matter where we are or what we're in, and just making sure we kind of hold that in the forefront. Like, right, people are still hungry, people still don't have a house or a roof over their head, people are still struggling to, as you said, keep their mindsets positive and all these other things, and making sure that we're helping everyone, no matter if it's COVID or not. Like, there's necessary things you need to do each and every day, no matter what. So just saying.
As another example, we have a lot of change makers that are really passionate about climate change. So we got on a call with a climate change advocate the other day, and it just, these things never stop. And the things that we care about, you don't want to suppress those parts of yourself during times like this. You want to make sure to keep them in the forefront of your mind. It's something that you cared about before COVID-19. It's something that you should care about during and after.
Yeah. So kind of like make sure you're reflecting daily. Quentin made the thought of like putting pen to paper last week and actually putting down those values, but then adding leadership on there, and how do you get there? What can you do? So almost do a side column. It's like, these are the 5 things I'm going to do today to lead by example and make myself better, but hopefully everyone else around me better as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. I know we kind of started off in a very odd situation, Jake. I want to kind of leave it to you. Is there anything else, like advice, wisdom, just thoughts that I kind of missed regarding leadership, or it could be about college, or anything that you kind of want to touch on before we leave in the next couple of minutes? I know it's kind of vague there.
Well, I think, I don't know. I was thinking, okay, it's a college and career call, so I don't want to only talk about change making and things like that. I mean, that's really what I want to talk about.
But, yeah, I mean, that's huge. That's a big piece of college and career.
I think one reflection I had was just the opportunity. I know there's a lot of students that have given positive and a lot of students that have given negative feedback on the online learning that we have transitioned to. And I think one opportunity that I really like about it, not that I think it's the end all be all, but there is parts of that experience that model certain parts of the college experience. I mean, there's the example of having an actual online class, which I had in undergrad and grad school. But even classes that aren't online, I mean, there's, especially as a freshman, when I was in microeconomics, that's a big lecture, and a lot of times the learning feels like it's on its own. Mm-hmm. So one piece of advice I have is that even when the learning feels like it's on its own, like virtual learning right now, or when you're in some of those big lectures in college, the advice I have is go take that extra step. One of the hardest things sometimes for a leader to do is admit when they need help, or to go out and ask for help. So things like office hours, finding your peers that get it, and like setting that time aside to ask and practice and learn those things. That learning, even if it's presented a certain way and you're not sitting in a classroom with 25 to 20 to 30 students, learning never has to be alone. And there are resources, and that there are people, even on college campuses, that are there to support you in that learning. So I think that's like the college and career advice that I was thinking about relative to the current moment, relevant to the current moment, is that use this virtual learning opportunity to practice that muscle of reaching out for help when it's not obvious that the learning could be collaborative, because it can be.
Absolutely. Wow, I can't talk now after your relevant question. That network of connection, Sable kind of touched on as a first generation going college student. It's like making sure you have those people in place that you can reach out to. I know personally, right, I jumped into my first freshman year, and I had a history course, had no idea what it was called, but there was like 200-300 people in that lecture hall, and the only thing that really got me through was a roommate on my floor in my residency happened to be in that class, and we'd study together, practice together, right, and make sure that we kept ourselves on the same page to make sure we turn in those essays, turn in those notes, turn in those whatever homework we had that day to day. It kind of kept you grounded because, yeah, I mean, the professor might not know you're there, and you might not know you're there sometimes because it's just like this huge swath of people, and you kind of get lost amidst that. So, yeah, it's tough. But yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, I appreciate you grounding us in the college and career. I kind of got sidetracked there as well. I was excited about change making and leadership and how that kind of plays into everything. So, cool, man, cool. Is there anything else you want to say about just Changemakers specifically, kind of moving forward, any activities that we can do or any items that we should be looking at?
So over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be launching a lot of virtual content that's on TulsaChangemakers.org, as well as our Facebook page and this Instagram, Tulsa Changemakers, and not TPS, the one that I'm on. Look out for that, and that's not just for, those aren't exclusive to Changemaker things. Things like the Lollipop challenge that we posted, things like we're going to be launching a Tulsa Changemaker podcast to start highlighting some of what the students have done and what they're thinking about now and some of their thoughts on the current moment. So all those things are going to be available. And again, that's TulsaChangemakers.org and then the Tulsa Changemakers Instagram and Facebook pages.
Cool, Jake. Well, thank you. Thank you for this little bit more informal session. I know we kind of get all over the place. I'm getting calls and it's crazy and stuff like that at the same time. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm going to kick you off in a second here, but I just want to say thank you on behalf of TPS and the Tulsa County for doing all this awesome stuff you're doing, even amidst this crazy remote virtual alteration we have in education. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being invited and sharing what I could. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get you back on, have a more structured situation as well, and we'll all be with you later down the road next year as well. So, thank you. I'm gonna kick you off, Jake. For the rest of us, just stay on for one more minute. Thanks, man. Bye. Hello, all. Thank you for bearing with us. I know we kind of lost people, gained people, and kind of went through. I apologize. I'm getting phone calls at the same time, so it's kind of very, very confusing. But so since last week, we've now accomplished 5 episodes of TPS Expeditions, which is super exciting. And I know it's been kind of different for each episode, and some things are kind of overlapping. Over the next couple of weeks, we have some very exciting new people, though, some professors. We have some financial aid officers and people that are going to kind of lead us in a new conversation revolving around even music in the lens of education as well. So again, please either follow the link that can be seen on our senior page or access it via the newsletter you get right before this live stream. And just at least add one question. Just one question. This is all I ask. And I can't stress enough that this is for you. We want, we crave your questions and or concerns. So please tell us anything at all. For next week, for this week, tune back in our Instagram live stream at Tulsa Public Schools this upcoming Thursday, April 30th at 10 a.m. to hear from Tristan Black from OU, speaking of all things college. So thank you for bearing with us. Thank you. And again, thanks for listening and stay safe. See you guys.